Hello, I'm Nathan Loynes. This was prepared in 2023. We're going to have a look at a recent history of the biomedical model in mental health. Our aims are to explore the development of the biomedical model in psychiatry, some seminal events that shaped its dominance, and the political context of psychiatry's desire for legitimation in the face of critique. There's much more detail to be found in Deacon 2013, The Biomedical Model of Mental Disorder, a critical analysis of its validity, utility, and effects on psychotherapy research in the Clinical Psychology Review Journal. But I'll try and summarize what I think the important points are over the next 5 or 10 minutes. So first of all, let's define our terms. What is the biomedical model in psychiatry? It seeks to emphasize biological abnormalities in the brain, imbalances that can be rectified by changing the brain structure or administering psychiatric medication. It aims to uncover or discover the biological causes and cures for mental disorders. And we'll keep coming back to this fundamental tenet of the importance of causes and how they can be rectified by cures. It's central to psychiatry, and how it had gained prominence in response to various social and political challenges. One of the seminal events or influences was the general paresis discovery. It was discovered that a bacterial microorganism was causing general paresis, and that the paresis could be cured by penicillin. So we had a cause and effect here. The cause of the microorganism and the effect was paresis, and we can resume things back to normality, if you like, with the use of penicillin. And this reinforced the search for biological causes for mental disorders. Where did they begin? And this discovery generally increased optimism about the possibility of finding cures. In the 1930s and 40s, we saw a growth in somatic therapies. Now, as a word of warning, somatic therapies, although the term is the same, what they actually involve has varied wildly over history. In the 1930s and 40s, somatic therapies subscribed to the belief that by changing or moving the body could have a positive effect on mental health. So, for example, a frontal lobotomy, which removed part of the brain, was seen to have a positive effect on mental health. It's questionable, though, whether that was the case. And in fact, were you simply removing an individual's capacity to think and feel? Rather than treating the mental disorder, you were turning them into less of a human. In the Victorian period, somatic therapy, pioneered by people like John Henry Kellogg, who might be familiar to you. It's the same individual that developed the breakfast cereals that we still eat today. But Kellogg was also committed to an idea that taking cold showers and eating certain types of food and things like that, changing the body's physical experience, can have a positive effect on mental well-being. And look at elsewhere today, where we've seen the New Economic Foundation's proposal, 5 Ways to Wellbeing, how moderate physical exercise, going for a walk, can have a positive impact about how you feel about the world and yourself. All these things are somatic therapies, but wildly different. So in the 1950s, we saw the adoption of things like electroconvulsive therapy, lobotomy, and insulin coma therapy. And on the face of it, these things seemed to be successful. But as we'll see, skepticism about how effective they actually were came to be raised round about the same time. However, initially, we saw raised hopes in curing mental disorders through somatic treatments. Serendipitously, at the same time, we underwent a psychopharmacological revolution. And this was the discovery that certain compounds could alleviate various psychiatric symptoms. Valium, for example, began to be more widely prescribed at this time. So was a mother's feeling of inadequacy in the family home a result of too much social pressure being placed on her? Or was it a case of a chemical imbalance in mother's mind, which could be quite easily alleviated with a daily dose of Valium? So in this time in the 1950s and 60s, it's classed as the birth of psychiatric medication. And it paved the way for the chemical imbalance theories as proposed by Schildkraut and Van Rossum. So what are the chemical imbalance theories? This was an emergence of theories linking mental disorders to chemical imbalances, and it provided the basis for continuing to develop more and more sophisticated and broader prescribing of psychiatric medications. And the chemical imbalance theory did and continues to influence treatment approaches. And you'll see from the Deacon 2013 text that Deacon is highly skeptical of this chemical imbalance theory. What came to be clear is that not everyone that underwent psychiatric treatment, either through medication and more invasive therapies such as ECT and lobotomy, experienced success. In fact, things got worse. And this criticism emerged on two fronts. The professional front, through the emerging discourse from within psychiatry itself, which became known as the anti-psychiatry movement, headed by influential figures such as R.D. Laing and Thomas Szasz. And as well as this professional critique, a popular critique emerged, which is probably best encapsulated through the Oscar-winning film One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which was released in 1975, although it is actually set in the 1950s. If you haven't seen the film, you might want to visit that, because I think it really does encapsulate the public perception at the time that psychiatric treatments such as ECT and lobotomy, which do feature in the film, are barbaric and ineffective. So through these critiques, the popular critique and the professional discourse critique, psychiatry was finding itself under fire. Its legitimacy and credibility were in doubt. It needed to re-establish itself as a legitimate medical profession. Why? Because so many institutions, so much finance, and so many well-paid jobs relied upon it. So psychiatry's political and defensive response to these threats and criticism was to make a political shift towards embracing the biomedical model in evidential support. In other words, hey, look at how rigorous we are in producing these drug treatments and so on and administering them. We are just like other medical professions. We are on equal footing. We deserve to continue to exist and grow as we have done. It was their aim to seek greater medical identity and integrity and re-establish legitimacy. One of the key seminal things that re-established this legitimacy was the publication of the Diagnostic Statistical Manual 3 in 1980. Do bear in mind that this manual is regularly updated and published. We're not working with DSM-3 at the current time. And what the DSM-3 did, this particular version of it, was to reaffirm psychiatry's legitimacy and medical identity. In America, the DSM-3 is overseen by the American Psychological Association, the APA, and the APA took political steps to market the biomedical model as legitimate within the popular press. So you can see Whitaker as support there. What also happened was a strengthening and greater collaboration between psychiatry and pharmaceutical companies for greater mutual benefit. It's a multi-million-pound industry. The APA took a role in continuing to endorse the legitimacy of the biomedical model. What this did was, over time, is improve the public's confidence in perceptions of psychiatry, that it was similar to other medical disciplines in that it had its own valid diseases, depression, anxiety, and so on, and its own effective disease-specific remedies, medication. Let's revisit our original aims and make conclusion. The biomedical model has underpinned psychiatry for the past 70 years or so. It continues to be highly influential. Certain seminal events have shaped the biomedical model's dominance. Allied discoveries in medicine, strengthened relationships with drug companies and finance, the steps that the American Psychological Association have taken in promoting it, and how the medical discourse, such as the Diagnostic Statistical Manual 3, lend legitimacy. The political context of psychiatry's desire for legitimation in the face of critique, particular popular discourses such as One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but the need to galvanise itself against attack from the anti-psychiatry movement and people such as R.D. Laing and Schash. These are the headlines as I see them, but if you want to look into this topic in more detail, do have a read through Deacon 2013, The Biomedical Model of Mental Disorder, a critical analysis of its validity, utility, and effects on psychotherapy research.